Alicia, and today I'm going to be talking about the HMRC. So if you are in the UK or you have a client that's in the UK, you're going to be very familiar with this concept of His Majesty's Revenue and Customs, also known as HMRC. So I have it on my screen here. If you're interested in knowing more about it, you can obviously look at the Wikipedia or Google about it. But again, if you're in the UK or you're working on a project in the UK, you're probably pretty familiar with this. So inside of Microsoft Dynamics D365 Finance and Supply Chain, we have the ability to actually transmit the HMRC, or also known as the VAT 100 report, to the government. Now, on the surface, this sounds grand and maybe simple, but it's anything but that. So I wanted to show you, I've actually documented this process and I want to show it to you because there's a lot of moving parts in actually doing the testing for the HMRC in preparation for actually doing it in production. So I put together a document. I wanted to show this to you in a document format in our demonstration today. So that way you can kind of logically see how it all fits together without me clicking in lots of different places, because it can get a bit overwhelming. In this particular document, I want to start out by saying that if you're a consultant doing this on behalf of your client, make sure that you're logged in with the client's email address or that you have the proper permissions. So if you do not have the proper permissions to their SharePoint and to some of their other pieces in there, you will get errors and it will not work. So you must have proper permissions again to their SharePoint site, as well as, I can't remember if we had to do anything inside of the other parts or not. I don't think I did. I believe it was just the SharePoint permissions. But again, you have to have proper permissions. If you can't do it and you get errors, then maybe have one of the IT people on your client side go through the process to see if they also get the error, because you can waste a lot of time with errors and stuff, and it's just simply the fact that you don't have proper permissions. Again, it's not intuitive. It's not like you're going to get an error message. You're going to be like, oh, I don't have permissions. So again, just kind of know that out of the gate. Also, the HMRC does have an email address. If you've ever tried to call the HMRC, you will be on hold forever. And then once you actually do get a person, they will tell you to contact your system administrator. So I personally have not had any luck contacting the HMRC on the phone and getting any help. I'm sure that may not be true for everyone, so I don't want to make it sound like it's not, that no one's helpful there, but I just haven't had much success. However, if you will email the HMRC, you'll get much better responses. So just to know that. All right. Now, the first thing that you're going to do when you're testing the HMRC, and again, where this particular demonstration starts off, is the fact that you've already done the setup in D365 and you're at the point of testing. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into the HMRC's website, which you'll have that. And again, these are the same links. One just actually has the words and the other's the URL. When you do this, when you click on that URL, it's going to come up and ask you if you're doing this for an individual or an organization. For testing, you must pick individual. If you do organization, it will fail. I ran into this over and over again, and you must do individual. So you're going to click individual and create, and then it's going to take you here, allow your tax software to interact with HMRC. You're going to say continue. Now, this is important because it's not something that's going to kind of scream at you. So you do want to do this. Once you actually get logged in here, you'll scroll down and you're going to put this VAT registration number in your copy, and then you're going to go into D365. Now, one thing to know about this user, it expires every 24 hours, and all this information is new every 24 hours. So just because you tested it successfully yesterday, you're still going to have to go through all this again. So just know that this process is very redundant and repetitive. But you do have to take this VAT registration number. You can put that in your copy. And then you're going to go into D365 under tax, set up electronic messaging and electronic messaging processing. And you're going to go into the UK MTD VAT test. And you're going to go down to this section called message additional fields. And you're going to populate, copy and paste that tax registration number here. Again, if you do not do this, when you go to transmit, you will get an error. All right. Then once you've done that, inside of D365, you go into tax, setup, electronic messaging, and web applications, and you're going to click on the sandbox, HMRC, get authorization code. You're going to say yes to the pop-up. In the next field, it's going to ask you for is the scope. And in the scope here, you're going to put this read : VAT space write : VAT. And this is a syntax here. And you're going to click OK. And then it's going to pop up HMRC. You're going to click continue. You're going to sign into the government gateway. Now here's the other thing. It's going to pop up when it's going to pop up like this in default of what you logged into last. That's wrong. What you have to do is whenever you generated that user ID at the top, when you clicked the create individual, you're going to go copy that user ID and password in for the new one. Again, you have to do this over and over again. You're going to copy that and put it here. Again, if you don't do this, you'll get all the way to the very end and you're going to get an error. And so it's kind of a long process. So you want to make sure you do this up front and you get it right, because if you don't, you're going to do it all over again. Okay. You're going to click get permissions, and then you're going to get, this will pop up, and you're going to, this is like a token. You're going to click copy here, and then you're going to go into D365 and say obtain token. So again, you're still in this tax, setup, electronic messaging, web application. You're going to say obtain access token, and you're going to paste that token that you just got here, and you're going to click OK. And then if you want to actually run the report to see what it's going to look like before you actually do the settlement and all of that, then you go into D365 under tax, declarations, VAT, report VAT for settlement period. And in our particular case, in this example, we're doing it quarterly, and you're going to the from date and original. Now, once you do this, if you see there's errors and stuff, you can do repost. You can't undo any postings, but you can post corrections. But the first go around, you're going to say original here. You're going to click OK, and then OK. And this, what it's going to do is going to dump it out into Excel. All right. The reason I didn't put a print screen of the Excel here is because I want to show you how to reconcile it. So you'll see a print screen a little bit further down on what the Excel looks like. Now, because once you print out the VAT 100, you want to dump the data out of D365 to match up the numbers. That way you're sure that the data in each one of the boxes is correct. How do you know if the data is correct? This is how. So you're going to go into D365 again, go under tax, inquiries and reports, VAT inquiries, and posted VAT. Okay. Then you're going to dump it out for the date range. That's for the same date range that the VAT 100 is for. Again, whenever you're doing dates in D365, it's the date, 2 dots, and then the to date. So it's the from date, 2 dots, and then the to date. And you're going to click OK. You do want to personalize your screen because by default it's not there. You want to personalize the screen to add this base amount in tax currency, because if you're doing things in multiple currencies, your numbers aren't going to tie out unless you're actually pulling this field. So base amount in tax currency. So once you're here, you're going to personalize the screen and add that, then you're export all rows. And then you're going to dump that into a pivot table, and you're going to do a pivot table on the source, the base amount, and the actual VAT amount. So you're going to query, do a pivot table on those 3 pieces of data. And then this is how you're going to tie it out. So I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you can see it. So line 4, which is VAT due in this period, this is the VAT amount on all the sales order invoices. So again, if you take, and I just copied my little pivot table here, you can see that my actual VAT for sales orders was £271.62, and then that value is here. And then you can go through each one of those. So this will explain to you what it is, and then up here's our little pivot table to show how it ties out. All right. And if you're happy with that and life's good, then you're ready to settle that. Once you settle and post, you cannot unpost. And again, what you're doing with the settle and VAT, you're telling the system to go out there and create these settlement VAT records. So that way you know how much to pay, and again, it's pulling all that through, but how much you're going to pay for the VAT, And then also it puts a settlement on all those transactions so that you don't try to settle them again or use them or transact against them or pull them through to the report again. So again, you go under tax, declaration, VAT, settle and post VAT. And it's going to pop up this query. Again, it's going to be the same quarterly, the date range, and so on. If you want to see what the system posted for the VAT payment, you go under tax again, and then inquiries and reports, VAT inquiries, and then VAT payments. And then here you'll be able to see the posting. And if you want to see the vouchers, you can click on vouchers as well. So if all that's good, life's good, you keep going. To actually process the HMRC VAT 100 report, you go under tax, inquiries and reports, electronic messaging, and electronic messages, and you're going to click on this one, UK MTD VAT test. You're going to click new, and the action is create VAT obligation request, and then you just click OK. And once that happens, it's going to create a line under this messages section. Again, we're still in the same screen here, and you're going to put in your from and to date that you want to actually do it for, and again, it would be for the quarter that you're doing in this example. Now, if you're in a test environment and you've already processed this once and you're like, okay, I want to do it, I want to generate this again, you can actually delete these lines in here, in that way you can process the same data over and over and over again, but you should never ever do this in prod. So what this piece right here is only for testing. Don't ever do the delete in prod. But if you do have messages here that you've already completed, like you can see this one's complete. If I try to delete this, I would get an error message. So what you do is you click on this complete VAT return, and it'll open up another screen, and you tick this little flag here that says allow delete and click save. And then when you get back to this screen, you'll be able to delete that. So that way you can use the same data over and over and over again to test. All right, so again, never do that in prod, only in a test environment. Okay, so now we're ready to send the report. So again, we created this line, we put the dates in, now we're going to click send, and it's going to be test, retrieve, VAT obligations. And then you're going to get this big long verbiage thing saying, you promise that everything is to best of your knowledge accurate. You click this checkbox and submit. And then back into this electronic messages screen, you have the completed VAT obligation required, completed VAT return, and new VAT return. Now, by default, you can see that this defaulted to 2017. So what you have to do is you actually edit, and you can see the request here, you actually have to edit this line and put in the proper year. The dates, the month and the day will be accurate, but the year will be wrong. So you have to change that to, in my case, 2024. And then I can say collect data and then populate VAT return records, and then click OK. And then if you go to, once you do that, you'll see down here in this action log this received date, and the date when the obligation is received by the HMRC. So that's what that function did. Once you're actually ready to generate the VAT return, then you say update status. And then it's going to be ready to generate VAT return, and then OK. And then generate report, generate file for submission. You click on it and say generate report. And generate for submission. Now, if you want to see the JSON, which is really the raw data, the raw data that's being sent to the HMRC, then you'll notice that there's a little 1 up here on the paper clip. So you can simply click that, and then you can either open it or do preview. And you'll notice that inside of that JSON text, that each piece of that data that we saw in the VAT 100 report is in here. So if you ever want to look at the JSON, you can do that. Now, once you're good and everything's happy, everybody's good, right? Then we're going to do send report. So again, we're on this line here. We say send report, and submit for a VAT return. Okay. And then it's going to say, are you really sure? And you're going to say, okay. And it gives you the big long, I promise this is correct. You do a checkbox and submit. And then it comes down and you can see that completed VAT return here, and then in the action log, it's import response. It was sent, it was completed, and then it was received here, and then we have our message that it was submitted. All right, so that's really the process. So that's the whole from soup to nuts, from beginning to end, on doing the testing. The parts of doing it in production are very much the same. The only difference primarily is that you're on this UK MTD VAT return instead of test, and then you're going to transmit it. And obviously, when you're doing it for real, when you log into the HMRC, you're doing your organization, and it's got your real VAT number and all that stuff in there. But doing it in production is virtually the same. A couple things to know. These are some errors that I ran into. So if you happen to run into this format mapping error, the solution for that is under message processing actions. Make sure that this format mapping field is correct. And then if you get this error here, saying that there's an exception level and stack trace 500 and stuff like that, again, it's probably because you didn't log in right. Or it could be that your user doesn't have the proper permissions. So I hope you find this helpful. It took me a lot of hours to figure this out. I got some help from Microsoft to put this together. So I hope that if you are testing HMRC, that you will find this really beneficial and hopefully save you a lot of time. So good luck on your filing.